There is a particular kind of fear many women carry quietly. It is not the fear of death, but the fear of becoming visibly older, the fear of no longer being perceived in the same way, the fear of silver appearing at the roots, the fear of the face softening, and the fear of becoming less desired, less visible, less valued in a culture that worships feminine youth almost religiously. And exactly of this fear, we live so deeply inside the collective psyche. Women are taught very early to wage war against time itself. Dye the hair, erase the lines, inject the face, tighten the skin, correct the body, remain desirable, remain youthful, and remain chosen. Above all, to remain untouched by life. What fascinates me in this? Many women today are becoming deeply conscious about what they eat, what they place into their home, the chemical inside food, the overstimulation of modern life, or the exhaustion of endless consumption. Yet, many of us, we still leave harsh chemical directly onto our scalps month after month, year after year, because the appearance of aging feels more frightening than the poisoning of our own nervous system. That alone says something profound about the psychology power of feminine aging in our culture. Because this is not only about beauty, it is about identity. Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Genevieve. I am a writer, mystic, astrologer, and homesteader living close to the rhythm of the earth. Much of my understanding comes through mythology, feminine archetypes, and listening closely to the quiet psychological and spiritual transformations unfolding beneath ordinary life. And today, I want to talk to you about crone. Now listening carefully to the emotional reaction to the word itself create, crone. For many people, the image rises immediately. An unwanted old woman, maybe a witch, someone bitter, irrelevant, even frightening, dried out of life, hidden away from the society. But archetypes does not disappear simply because cultures distort them. They go underground. I think many women are beginning to feel the crone inside stirring against beneath the surface of modern life, especially now, because we are living in a civilization obsessed with services, filtered beauty, algorithmic desirability, eternal youth, constant visibility, and endless performance. Women are encouraged to remain physiologically suspended in maidenhood indefinitely. We have to be fresh, smooth, accommodating, pleasant, and consumable. Meanwhile, aging itself is treated almost like a failure of feminine discipline. But in older traditions, the crone was never merely an old woman. She was an initiated woman, a woman who has crossed through illusion, a woman who has lived long enough to understand grief, betrayal, tenderness. She understands mortality, survival. She experienced solitude, desire, exhaustion. She loved. She accepted disappointment and truth. The crone was the keeper of wisdom precisely because life has transformed her. And this is what modern culture struggles to honor, the transformation that cannot be commercialized. Because the crone carries something difficult to manipulate. That is her discernment. She sees through illusion. She sees through performance. She sees through seduction and the false power. Perhaps this is why aging woman has so often been stripped of sacredness in particular society. The maiden is celebrated. The mother is useful. But the crone is dangerous because she belongs increasingly to herself. I think this is also why older feminine archetypes became distorted in mythology and folklore. They call them the witch, the bitter old woman, the dangerous widow, and the jealous crone hidden at the edge of the village. But when we look deeper into ancient traditions, many of these women were originally guardians of thresholds. They are the keepers of herbs, cycles, birth, death, intuition. They are the dream and the mysterious of transformation. Women who understood nature not intellectually but through embodiment. And perhaps that is what modern culture fears the most. A woman no longer entirely depending upon external approval to know who she is. Because a woman reconciled with herself becomes difficult to control. A woman who no longer believes her value depends entirely on appearing young begins reclaiming enormous energy. Energy once spent on anxiety, on comparisons, performance, self-correction. She was eager to please, she shrank, she monetized herself constantly through the eyes of the others. And I think many women feel the exhaustion of this, not only physically, particularly spiritually. The endless labor of maintaining an acceptable feminine image. And eventually, a deeper question rises. What would happen if I stopped treating evidence of my life as something shameful? The question comes to me very quietly. A few months ago, I stopped dyeing my hair. It's not a dramatical act. It is not a political act. It is because I had suddenly transcended vanity. At first, I kept looking in the mirror almost automatically, searching for the silver strands, wondering whether I still looked acceptable, whether people would notice, whether I appeared older. And then something shifted. I began seeing the silver differently. It is not a deterioration, but a texture, as life becoming visible. Silver threads moving through dark hair like winter light through branches. And I realized that what I was truly confronting was not the hair at all. I was confronting conditioning, the fear that my value would diminish as visible youth slowly receded. So once I saw that fear clearly, I began noticing how deeply women are conditioned to disconnect themselves from nature in order to remain socially acceptable. Nature moves in cycles openly. Trees do not apologize for losing leaves. Animals do not conceal age from one another. Fields do not remain permanently in bloom. Only human beings attempt to freeze themselves against time, especially as women. Perhaps this disconnection from natural cycles is part of a much larger psychological wound within modern civilization. We have become deeply uncomfortable with transformation. We want permanent beauty, productivity, eternal youth, and certainty. But life itself moves through initiation. We start with seed, then flower, then the fruit. After we harvest, but at the end we rest. Every meaningful transformation asks something to mature, and maturity always changes appearance. The face changes, the body together with it. The eyes change and the energy shifts. What if beauty was never meant to remain fixed? What if beauty deepened through lived experience instead of disappearing because of it? This is where I believe the crone archetype carries medicine for many women. Because the crone is not the death of beauty. She is beauty released from performance. the kind of beauty carrying memory, carrying discernment, embodying soul. A different radiance emerges when a person no longer spends all their energy trying to remain untouched by life. Perhaps this is why so many women, they feel both grief and liberation when signs of aging first begin appearing. Because somewhere deep inside us, another self is trying to emerge. A self that is less willing to shrink, less willing to perform endlessly, less willing to abandon intuition for approval. A woman returning slowly toward her own authority. I think this reconciliation does not happen only outwardly. It must happen psychologically. It happens. Many people carry exiled part of themselves, like anger, intuitions, the wildness in us, our sexuality, the boundaries. What about our grief, our feminine power? Aging, solitude, and truth. All that part, it is labeled as too emotional, too intense, too much, too difficult, too old, too visible, even too honest. So we put those parts underground, hidden. And eventually, a woman can become divided against her own self. The self-performing acceptability, while the other waiting silently underneath. The crone belongs to the self underneath. The self that has survived enough life to stop mistaking performance for truth. Perhaps it is why reclaiming the crone can feel both frightening and deeply relieving at the same time. Because reconciliation with the self asks us to stop abandoning ourselves in exchange for approval. Not to collapse into neglect. Not to stop caring for beauty. Not to reject adornment or softness and even sensuality. But the end of the inner war within ourselves. To allow beauty to mature alongside truth. To allow wisdom to become visible. And to stop treating natural becoming as failure. Maybe this is one way we begin awakening the crone within ourselves. I invite you, by listening more closely to our own rhythms, by honoring cycles instead of resisting them, by stepping away from endless performance, allowing silence back into our lives. Please, reconnecting with the body, the earth, our intuition. Take rest, slow down, reclaiming the inner authority. Also by asking ourselves, who am I becoming beneath the conditioning? Or perhaps, most importantly, what part of myself have I been taught to fear because it carries real power? I think the crone, she waits quietly beside that question. She's not punishing. It is not a decline. She is initiation. A return towards the deepest self beneath performance, fear, and social expectation. So perhaps the real question is not, how do we prevent the crone? The real question is, what wisdom might enter our lives if we finally allow her to arrive? From my heart to yours, Genevieve.